you want to look to, countries that aren't necessarily resource heavy putting toward this and using sports as a tool for diplomacy and international relationships, there's France, Japan, Australia, Wales, Ireland, all of which have created sports diplomacy strategies that are integrated into their foreign policy. It's not as a side, it's not a soft power. It is part of the power of that country, and they're using that. They're integrating policy into what they're doing internationally. So if you talk to, the UK, and you talk, like if a US team goes overseas. So you have an MLB or an NFL team, right? The NFL is obviously in the news a lot now for sending teams overseas. They're doing more international games. There's not much of a role of the U.S. government when they do these games. This is the NFL doing this. But if you look at what, like the National Rugby League in Australia we work with, they've done events in Las Vegas the last few years. We've helped them with that initiative. The Australian government is integrated, and they're using that to kind of to have larger conversations around trade opportunities. We've started pivoting more toward this concept of like commercial sports diplomacy. So you get away from that idea of like sports diplomacy is ping pong and soft power and like, look at us, isn't this nice? We can play sports together and, now we can get along as friends. Like, no, there's actual revenue generating outcomes that come about this. And so instead of the US government kind of watching these different sports leagues expand internationally, why not be involved? Why not support them? Why not have our Commerce Department, which has the Foreign Commercial Service, help facilitate conversations so that when the Indianapolis Colts go to Germany, they've got a lineup of ways that they can export US goods, new potential consumers, or there's a way for German companies to have new inroads to American markets. So I think there's a lot of connection points that just aren't happening. And we're not, it's not that we're worse off for it, but we're just leaving so much on the table. And these other countries I mentioned are doing that. They demonstrate that, and they're doing this in really smart, unique ways.